I grew up with pretty low income, and my parents were super supportive. All they ever wanted for me and my siblings was for us to have an easier life than they did.
Welcome to Common Denominator, the podcast where we uncover the universal truths that connect us all. I'm your host, Moshe Popak, and today's guest is someone who literally studies what it takes to perform at the highest level, whether in sports, business, or life.
I don't care about losing that much. And that's a really weird thing, because when people say someone's like, oh, someone's ultra competitive, you hear the stories of the Michael Jordans who hate to lose.
Dr. Andy Galpin is one of the world's leading experts in human performance, professor and executive director of the Human Performance Center at Parker University. But here's the thing, Andy isn't just about elite athletes. He's a teacher, storyteller, and guide, translating cutting-edge science into actionable advice for everyday high achievers, leaders, parents, creatives, anyone who wants to unlock their full potential.
If you want to be world-class in something, you actually have to develop world-class skill.
Today, we're talking about performance beyond the gym, how to measure progress, cut through the noise, optimize your health, and even train your mind and emotions like a muscle.
There is more money being spent on sleep right now than ever before, and sleep is consistently getting worse.
Hi, Andy, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I always think about the journey, the origin of, why people do what they do. Take us back to little, child Andy, and what was the spark to get into elite performance of humans, and why that was so fascinating for you?
Sure, man. I grew up in the country, and I grew up with pretty low income, and my parents were super supportive. They were around, and all they ever wanted for me and my siblings was for us to have an easier life than they did. And so they said, we want you guys all to go to college, not because college is magical, but just because for a country person that doesn't know a scientist, has never met a doctor, don't know any lawyers, that's the closest thing they could come up with that would be like a better life, or at least give you a chance. And so do whatever you want to do in your life, but you're going to do something that's easier than what we've had to do. And so that was a flag. And then at the same time, the community I grew up in was very into sports. And most of the kids I grew up with were working jobs before school, after school. Like, everybody was always hustling. And so losing in sports was always acceptable because there's just more talented people. But an entire community, my family, my siblings, my coaches, my friends, we all had a core belief that losing again was okay, but it was never okay to be out prepared, to not show up, to not have worked hard, to be out of shape. Like, those things were just, you don't steal, like you don't take the shortcuts, and you lose, but you don't take the shortcuts. And so I had those two things in my brain of like, you can get there not because you're smarter or better than anybody else, but if you do the work. And then two, to be ambitious. So I didn't know what any of that could mean. I was good enough at sports to where I was able to play college football. And I was in that middle level, right? Where if I did things right from a training and nutrition perspective, it was going to make a difference. And if I didn't, I probably wasn't going to play. So my motive was simply like, I want to play college football. Kids where I'm from don't go to college, period. They don't go to college sports for sure. So I just wanted to do that. And then it was, how do I make a career out of this? I don't want to be a football coach or a baseball coach, but I want to be in this realm of human performance because I like it, I like sports, and I can outwork people. And that's really the genesis of the entire thing, and it's what's carried me through to this day.
So I love that, because it's not common today, that the comfort also on the failure side, that's kind of like your DNA. Like, you're working hard. Nobody said that you're going to win, because only could be one winner, right? But I talked to a lot of people about the idea of like the process, and I've heard that a lot. If we can fall in love with the process, knowing that anyhow life is just limited, we're born and we go, and that process is what should fill you. Is there any kind of like hacks and tricks to learn to just really enjoy the process and be more and more comfortable with failure?
Yeah, I think about it differently. If my wife were listening, she would be cracking up right now, because the amount of losses like I've had over the last 20 years, and it's always like upsetting to her, and she's just like, feels so bad for me, and I just roll right through it. And so I don't necessarily resonate a ton personally with like love the process. What I have worked well with is I love to compete, but I don't care about losing that much. And that's a really weird thing because when people say someone's like, oh, someone's ultra competitive, you hear the stories of the Michael Jordans who hate to lose. That's not how I am competitive. I'm competitive in the sense of like, I want to always be competing at something. And like part of competing a lot and especially shooting your target is like you're almost going to lose on almost every time by default. And so how this works in my life is shooting an ambitious goal with a client or an athlete of mine, like trying to win a world championship. It's insanely hard to win an Olympic gold medal. Everything has to go right for years. Even if you are the best player in the world, like that day, that moment, to not get hurt, not be sick, not slip on the mat. Like all these things have to go right to win a Super Bowl, to win an MVP. Like I've been fortunate to do all these things with my clients. I had a client last year climb Mount Everest, not an athlete, like nothing of the sense, just a regular 50-plus-year-old business guy. And we got him up to Everest and back because he just had this wild ambition. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Have you ever done that before? No, I have no clue what we're doing, but like, we're going to go figure this thing out. When you have that kind of an approach, like you're going to lose the vast majority of the times. Like that's just going to happen. And so losing has such little effect on me. Like you want to win, but that's part of it. As a scientist, most of your experiments are going to fail. Most of the time you try to publish research, you're just going to get told how terrible it is. Like that is the peer review process. So I don't say like I love the process whereas like I'm just insanely used to that feedback. And it's just like that feedback doesn't have this like emotional, like, oh, I'm a terrible person or anything on me. It's just like, great, we lost. Like, go again. Go where else. Like change, like keep swinging until it works. So I just, since a kid, because of that nature and because of that background, I just don't get deterred a lot. Like, of course it hurts emotionally and like all that stuff happens, but like, this is the process. Like if you look at world champions in fighting sports, the greatest of all times generally have about a 50-50 record in world championship fights.
That's funny. I saw that with Federer. He was saying 54%, right? And I was like, whoa.
It's the same thing with like, pick your executives. How many people have started one company ever and had huge exits? Most are going to be like, have the huge exit, but they're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 shots on goals. Like that's most of the time you're looking at like a 20% record and you're an elite entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Like, you have the things that can happen, and the people that break world records at 20 years old, like, yeah, sure, but the vast majority of people, even the super successful ones, 52% makes you a winner.
And what would you say is the commonality, what you find? You work with a lot of just top performers, business people, elite athletes. When you peel back the layers of their framework in their mind, what's going on there?
Yeah, this is a great question. From the best of the best athletes, from government leaders, most successful entrepreneurs, all names you guys would recognize immediately. All these I'm coaching this week, right? There are a couple of things that pop out really clearly. Number one, they have elite talent. Like elite talent in their thing. And I'm saying this intentionally. One of the issues that we've had with people over the time is like they forget that part. If you want to be world-class in something, you actually have to develop world-class skill. Like you have to have that. You can't out-market it. You can't out-coach it. You can't out-strategy it. Like at some point, you have to be really good. And so that should always be the core thing you focus on.
Is that trained? Is that the elite talent? Is that trained, or that's kind of like X factor, born with DNA type of thing?
It's literally both, right?
Right.
And so what this allows you to do is we've had some of these freaks who are best in the world at 19, all genetic, basically, right? Okay. So they got to do 10% skill work, and now we spend the rest of the time somewhere else. Where other folks are lower on that list, but they still spend all the time cultivating that talent, right? But you have, no matter how you get there, if you're starting high or starting low on that unique natural talent, you cannot miss the part that you have to actually be incredibly good at what you do. The second thing that is almost always consistent, being tough helps. Every time someone is tough or gets tougher, that always translates into more success. There's just no thing we've seen with these high performers where they haven't focused more, where they haven't gone after things harder, and it didn't result in more success. Everything else I could tell you, we have people that eat perfectly well with full-time chefs. We have people that eat McDonald's. And every other variable you could think of, business coaches or by the fly, plan their days or like all the stuff. I've seen people do the best in the world with all those variables all over. And doing this for 20 years, those two things are the things that pop out. When things get really hard, who can be really tough? That is it.
I saw a TED talk on that. I think it was a Harvard study that resilience was that commonality. I saw that. What do you see on the other side? Right? We always talk about the sacrifice. What's the commonality of that sacrifice? What does that really look like being in this world, right? You're all the way on the end of the bell curve of the human race. And that's really what you are, whether in business or athletics. What are you sacrificing?
It's not as much as you think. We have some people who've made 7, 8, 9-figure exits, and they work 30 hours a week. Like, they don't really work that hard relative to what you think. We have the same thing with some of our athletes. They do their one workout a day, and then they're playing video games, and they're just like off to whatever. So the sacrifice part is variable, to be totally candid. You typically have to have at most 2 things you focus on. Where people can lose this is they're focusing on getting really good at 3 things or 4 things, right? And it's like, that doesn't always translate. Some of them are focusing on 1, but some of them will focus on 2. And sometimes that's good. And what I mean by 2 is, the easy example is like, you become elite at running your company, and then you also become a really high level pool player, because it kind of gives your brain 2 things to pay attention to, and it gets you off there. But when you start adding a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th, like, that's when things sometimes start to fall apart, just, in our experience. But you don't have to be 1. In fact, I would argue that would be a challenge to really just only do 1 thing and not hit that burnout thing. And, that's your 3 to 5 year window, right? It's like, oh, you were incredible. And 4 years later, you want to switch your company, do something entirely different. Well, yeah, because like, you didn't have a second outlet and it wasn't sustainable. And our athletes would be the same. We have actually an athlete right now. I can't say his name. He's going to win the award this year for best in his sport. You're talking about the next contract he signs is going to be a $1 billion contract or close. He's very young, and the only thing he cares about is his thing. And we are actively being like, you have to pick up number 2. Like, you have to, because it's working now, because you're 20 something. But when you're mid 20s, late 20s, it's we've seen this story too many times. So he's like trying other stuff, and we're like, okay, fine, I don't care. But that central focus is pretty consistent. You have to typically have 2 things.
You take someone like I was thinking about this, like the President of the United States. Either he's in there for 4 years or 8 years, right? All these promises, all these things. And in reality, right? Because it's what you focus on. It's maybe he'll get 1 thing done, maybe he'll get 2 things done, because it's a huge machine.
This is the same with your body, by the way. When you're like doing your physical training, if you're out there and you're trying to gain more muscle and you want to lose fat, and then you're trying to improve your flexibility and you want to ramp up your VO2 max, and then you also want to get good at pickleball, you do all that stuff equally, you're going to be 6 months down the line and it's going to feel like nothing happened, because that gear is too big. And so this is a really common thing we see with people who are like, I'm weighing on my food, I'm training, I got a trainer going on, doing all these things. I'm like, I'm not getting any better. And we look and we're like, well, if I told you you're spending equal parts on your marketing and sales and biz ops and blah, 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 you would probably say nothing's probably going to get done. There'll be a lot of work. And if you wait 5 years, a lot will happen, because you are making important things. It doesn't seem like anything is moving because there's not enough focus in one area to notice a big enough change.
I think of like jack of all trades, master of none, right? It's like, again, you have all this stuff on the internet of how health should look like. What would you say, let's just take a male in his 40s, what would you say is the top things to focus on, right, to have a good life?
Yeah, the analogy we use are what I call performance anchors. What I mean by this is, everyone imagine driving down a street and you're going down, right? You're in San Francisco or, the big hill, and you're going down it. And you're like, man, I want to go faster. Like, okay. Everyone wants to put their foot on the accelerator, hit the gas. Fine. But the first thing I will do as your coach would look at it and say, is your left foot on the brake? Because if your left foot's on the brake and then you try to hit the gas more, you might go a little faster. but you're not going as fast as you could, number one. So your progress is slower than it should be. And two, you're going to put more wear and tear in your system. So in that 40-year-old, the very first thing I'd look at is that left foot. Are you intentionally breaking your own self? Are you anchoring things down? And if you are, we need to remove that now. You'll go faster. You get more results. If you're doing something that's going to lead to wear and tear on your body, injuries, are you doing something to compromise your moderate or longer term health? Are you taking shortcuts? These are anchors. And the first thing I'm going to do for that 40-year-old, get those out. And that might feel like no progress. Like all you're going to do is remove these problems. Yeah. Because now we're going faster, or maybe we're going the same speed. It might feel like it, but we're doing way less wear and tear. Now we can hit the accelerator. And now I can go for these hacks or these optimization or pushes, and we're going to get more results that don't make you further broken when you're 52 or when you're 60, right? If you're 40 years old right now, what do you think medicine is going to look like 60 years from now? You're not even halfway there. And so if you're not thinking right now, you legitimately have a chance to be 100, 120. I mean, who knows what's going to happen 60 years from now? I have no clue. But the reality of it is, if you're torching yourself at 40, not the place to be for the long game. So I also, at the same time, I don't want you sacrificing any progress right now for what might happen 75 years from now. And so we're going to play this game of remove anchors right now. We're going to push things. We're going to go after that muscle gain or that strength or fat loss or sharper cognition, better memory, more focus, whatever thing, better digestion, whatever the thing is, you're there. But the first thing we're going to do is remove those problems and to see what your body will actually give you as a 40-year-old, a 45-year-old, even as a 50-year-old. You should be feeling really damn good. And if you're not, and then you're just trying to mask that with like the accelerator stuff, then we're going to see problems and breaking and failures and stuff like that. So you should feel pretty phenomenal as a 40-something-year-old right now.
I would definitely think that. I just saw RFK Jr. was at the Senate hearing, and he quoted a stat, CDC, today, 76.4% of adults have some form of chronic disease. In 1950, it was 3%. I was shocked when I heard that was a real stat coming out of the CDC. What's going on in society in the U.S.? We're spending, I think, $5 trillion between all healthcare across the boards. It just seems that we're going reverse. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, first, I don't know the accuracy of that stat. In general, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Politicians don't do particularly well at accurately citing research. So
yeah, it was just something I saw. So maybe it's. I definitely know there's a lot of obesity, hypertension, diabetes, all that stuff. Definitely.
One thing people don't talk about is there is more money being spent on sleep right now than ever before, and sleep is consistently getting worse. 60 billion put into sleep, progressively worsening. There are some health metrics that are actually flatlining and getting a little bit better, but it's all bad. There is no argument among anybody. You cannot make a cogent argument at all that health is good across the world, America alone. So we can all agree on that. Now, to the question, why is this happening? Well, you have a whole host of factors that are combining. Anytime you look at physiology and human health, it's never the magic bullet. I'm sorry, it's not the seed oil. It's not the cell phone. It's not one of those things. It is this entire avalanche being thrown at your system in a really fast way. Lifestyle changes, AI, working from home, like this all happened really fast. And physiology and healthcare just frankly hasn't had the opportunity. And there's much more to this. It's a very long conversation, but globally, that is your answer. And so the hope here is we start to look at these big rocks because they are true. Your nutrition, your social relationships, your mental health, your clean water, your physical movement, and your sleep. These are the rocks. And the question is now, where is this major, where are the biggest places of disruption? Right? When is it starting? What are causing problems? Why are we seeing 70 to 80% of medical sleep disorders going undiagnosed? Well, we have answers to all those things, right? Why are we seeing obesity rates and chronic disease rates what they are? And the answer is it's 1,000 things. And now we're at the point of saying, okay, we have differing opinions on what the first 2 or 3 things are that we should start the attack. But the only real truthful answer is it is a combination of a bunch of factors. And those factors differ between men and women, America and Germany, and young and old. It's not the same recipe for everybody. And kids, unfortunately, it's just not. So, but those global things are pretty universal among us, everybody.
I know in our home, we're constantly thinking about how much we have to actively like detox from screens, make sure your water's clean. And you talk about your air, sleep, compared to, again, 50 years ago,
Yeah.
it's coming from all places. I feel like we're moving towards just living in a cave in a way to really have quality of life. I'm overweight. I'm not sleeping well. I'm this, everybody I come in contact with seems to be suffering from something that's not in balance because you're bombarded from all things.
Yeah, no, I actually really appreciate how you just framed detox. It's not a green juice. It's not a charcoal supplement. It is all of those things, right? It is a physical detox, which is relevant, but is vastly overblown. But it is a sensory detox too. It is input. This is one of the major drivers with sleep issues. It's not the blue light, right? People see this like, oh, my screen. Your screen's blue light is probably doing almost nothing. It does impact some people. And we test this directly, right? We will see very specifically. I know this candidly. Light at night will actually affect my wife a little bit, has zero bearing on me at all. And we have the most high fidelity. We build entire medical grade sleep clinics in people's homes. So I'm not like using a wearable here for this. I'm saying like the gold standard, beyond what you'd see in a sleep clinic, a sleep hospital. We do this in people's bedrooms. Where people mess this up though, is it's not the light in this example. It's the searching of novelty. It's the sensory input. It's that stuff that will tank your sleep that is often associated with your screen, which is then associated with the light. And so it's getting to this next level of science of saying, okay, the blue light thing, great. And now we built a $100 bajillion industry on blue light blockers. That was not the thing. The thing was, what's the activity? Exactly like you said. What's the sensory input that's happening all day? When are we balancing that sensory input out? When are we having that detox from light and that detox from conversation and that detox from, that's the stuff that'll put us back in more alignment. And so the nice part about it is the healthcare field, scientifically, medicine, and to consumer, is starting to see this stuff. And we're starting to see more products and services and research questions that are saying like, this is how we go about this. And so my hope is we will have better solution steps as the years go by, because again, we're starting to realize that we're starting to be able to commercialize those things. And to help people understand and work through some of these issues.
And obviously, big explosion, many startups being funded, AI, throughout many different industries. Are you for these advancements in AI with regard to health? And what is it going to look like in 5 years, 10 years from now, using AI in reference to health?
Yeah, of course. I mean, how do you not support moving things away that are not important tasks and moving experts into their expert domain? Now, this can be cut 1,000 ways. Let's just take a simple AI solution that allows the physician to move from spending 10 hours a week just documenting and billing and coding. And you immediately get that, right? I can see your head shaking. Like, that is an insanely productive.
Because I saw the stat, it was like $1 trillion in the US for documentation. That's what it is.
Right.
Which I was like, when I saw that recently, I was shocked. But that's what it was.
I mean, healthcare problems gone. Like just that. And now you start actually folding in actual medical technologies, like the digital twin stuff that is being done now for pre-surgery. And so you can have scans done, you can make digital twins of your heart, and Boston is already doing this. And then they can go predictive modeling on what method of surgery will give you the best outcome prior to your surgery. You're not replacing the expertise. You still have to have world-class people in that room going, this is the information in, right? This is our databases and stuff. This is not something you can plug into Grok or Claude or GPT something, right? This is only more information. This is more feedback. We've used this actually recently. I had a client of mine. We had years of blood work data, and we were able to throw this into our AI system and to not just let the AI do anything with it, because normal large language learning models are like not capable of doing anything productive for the most part with physiology. Like they don't. And I can explain why. But we were able to ask it very specific questions. One of the things we found was this person doesn't live in America, but the changes in air quality throughout his region year after year after year were having a demonstrable impact on a number of his blood markers. And that was just like a pattern that would have taken me forever to put that together. But I was able to ask, and I had a hunch, and I was like, hey, what's going on here? And it was like, boom, yep. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. We've had this happen with other folks having like 3 to 4 month issues in their physiology post Ramadan. We're like, oh, okay, this is lagging from Ramadan. This is exactly what's happening. So now we're going to go into next Ramadan with a different approach. So it allows me as like a practitioner to ask questions way faster and to be more intelligent. What is a big mistake is to just dumping thing into, again, a GPT as a normal person and then trying to ask it questions because you don't know the quality of the information coming back. And like I can't warn people enough against this. You still need the expertise. That's the critical part of this equation. So you still want an expert looking over that stuff. And I'm sure you guys have do this in your own sector. And the stuff that comes back is like laughable sometimes where you're like, I mean, I just did this the other day when I asked Cal Raleigh, who's a Major League Baseball player, has 52 home runs or something. How many is he projected to hit the rest of the year? It's like the most simple thing ever. It was like 88. And I was like, what? No, there's no way. He's got 10 games left. And it's just like, it was so laughably bad. And it was like, oh yeah, you're right. But if I didn't literally know baseball to that level, it would have been like, I guess I'm basically idiot. Like you just, and so this doesn't even count the hallucinations and synthetic data and other things, right? Of course, these things are all going to get better. But the reality of it is, when it comes to your healthcare, which was your specific question, you 1000% still want a really qualified person using AI to make their job and their process faster. But they still have to look through that stuff and vet before you. That would be my recommendation.
That's where, people are like, okay, we're getting rid of AI. I mean, we're getting rid of human work, but you're going to have element of that and many, many jobs in AI. So I'm for AI. There should be some sort of regulation.
I mean, this is my space in terms of like human performance, health, sleep, blood. And I've seen all the pitches. Guys, I get these multiple a week. I've seen all the pitches on our AI model, our digital twin. 97% of the digital twins I've seen from companies are like childish. The marketing is great. The terminology, they might have some people on the board, and you see what they're producing. I'm like, that is like laughably bad. And the ones that are not laughably bad are still like really bad. And I know you're at home, you're saying, like, oh yeah, but you don't know about blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I probably do. Like I probably have seen it. They probably pitched me and I probably said, like, no thanks. They're just like not very good at this point because they fail what I just said. They're not made by content experts. And that's a really big problem.
I was thinking from a health perspective. I don't know, I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, okay, forget about borders, forget about politics, forget about everything. Fine, you can get people to live long, but again, it's that quality of life. I was like, why don't you get the greatest brains in the world to find what places in the world people have the highest quality of life and are living the longest. Then study what they do actually, the environment, everything around. And then like that's like best practices. Like I think of it like that way. I don't know if I'm even in the right ballpark, but it sounds like logical to do something.
It's a great idea. And people have done, they've made those attempts. There's a whole set of studies and people have talked for years now about the blue zones. Right, these areas in the world where people live longer, but that's not it's not all it's chalked up to be.
For sure. So Andy, tell me something. What's something now looking back at all the great people you've worked with, what's something you're deeply grateful for?
Oh my God, all of it. I really appreciate that question. I don't come from a family of scientists or a family of politicians or whatever these things, and so I'm like, dude, I'm a country kid. I baled hay farmed. Like I did all these things. And I feel like every step of the way, I've just been incredibly fortunate, insanely fortunate to be built with every part of my body that works. Be fortunate to be born, in my case, in America, to have parents that were not abusive or anything beside. And it's just like I could go on and on and on and on. And everything I have, pretty much daily, my wife and I will be like, I can't believe it. Like, I just cannot believe this many things have happened. I certainly have worked hard and done all those things, but geez, thousands of people work hard and get none of the breaks, let alone all the breaks that I've gotten over my life. So when you ask me like what I'm grateful for, man, my kids are healthy. I have a great relationship with my wife. Like my parents are still here. And there's not many people on the planet that can say that alone, let alone all the professional success. And I mean, I was up with one of our athletes a couple of days ago for the first NFL season. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I told my kids, actually, I took my kids. So we're sitting with like the family section and all the private suites and all that stuff. And I told my kids, I'm like, you realize, like, we never went to a sporting event, not a professional one. My entire life, we couldn't afford it. There's no chance. And you're 5 years old and you're like in the suites. Like, I've been all over the world. I've been and done all the wildest things that I didn't even know existed. I didn't dream of them as a kid because I didn't even know those things were real. I could go on and on about that, but yeah, that's one thing I'm very diligent about is I accept this could all end at any point, not even this like morbidly, but just like people might not care about what I have to say anymore or want to work with me or all that could end. So every time I get invited on a podcast, every time somebody asks me a question on social media, I'm like, man, what a wild spot to be in where somebody cares that much.
It's definitely a great place to be. I want to say thank you, Andy. This has really been very informative and helpful, and I appreciate it, and much success in all your work.
I appreciate the opportunity, man, and the questions. You're fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andy. I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. If you're enjoying Common Denominator, make sure to hit like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave a review and share the podcast with a friend for more stories that inspire, challenge, and connect us all. We appreciate you listening.